All right, it's 6 o'clock and notice is hereby given pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Vernon's annotated civil statute, Article 6252, number -17, that the city of Smithville will conduct a planning and zoning meeting on January 3rd, 2023 at 6 o'clock PM in the council chambers located at 317 Main Street, Smithville, Texas. I'm Caroline Noya. I'm Vice Chair of Planning and Zoning. You can't hear me? Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Does that one work?
Okay. I'm Caroline Noya. I'm Vice Chair of Planning and Zoning. To the left of me is Nancy Catherman and Monica Pass to her left and Garrett Gutierrez to my right. Happy New Year, everybody. Did we have discussion and action on the approval of minutes from December 6th meeting? Have y'all had a chance to read the minutes? Any
Yes.
changes, any comments? If not, I'll call for a motion.
I move that we approve those minutes
Nancy, thank
of the December 6th meeting.
Nancy, and we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, any comments? Call for a vote, please. Any approval? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda is discussion and action on multiple variance requests for curb and gutters, street radius, speed limit, continuity, street right-of-ways, and sidewalks for Garwood Park subdivision, ABS A46 Lomas L 5.11 acres, parcel ID 49198 701 Northeast 9th Street, property owner Mox and Cahoots LLC, agent Chase Hodges. Has anybody signed up to talk for any of these?
So number 3, we have a Miss Bonnie Bratton.
Okay, well, before you speak, you want Chase to give a presentation to us so we can,
That'd be great.
yeah, so we can have any,
If you don't mind, I'm gonna do like a 1-minute deal overview and then Chase can do it.
okay.
Sure, he's talking about this one. I know he is. But
Yeah, and you're talking
Happy
about,
New Year to y'all
Yeah.
too.
and you're about the
Been a long-
Garwood subdivision, the 701 9th Street, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just double
We-
checking.
It's referenced in here as Garwood Park, that one up there,
yeah,
the one with the 6 variances. Okay,
yes.
is that coming through? It's been a long path to get back here after we were here a year or 18 months ago or whenever we started with it. So I'm happy to be back because we want to move forward and break ground and get the project going. And we believe it's going to be a beautiful addition to the city and keep in step with the small town charm that we've all said that we wanted out of this development. So what we're here, and Nancy was asking part of what the process is, the lengthy third-party review that's gone on with basically the engineering company that acts as kind of a compliance arm to come back and look over whatever the planning and zoning in the city has done to make sure that everything's aligned with the ordinances. So what you see here, the 6 variances are a result of negotiations, discussions with the city, with Robert and Jack and with the third party, and what it needs for us to kind of dot the i's and cross the t's to go forward with what was approved last year. The 6 variances, the specific steps are designed to conform with the ordinances and the feedback that we got from the neighbors in the community back during those hearings. Specifically, what a couple of things that we're asking for and that came out of the review is that we're asking for a lower speed limit. We are putting an interior street in there that right now is named Towers Lane. And so we're asking that not be a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit, but a 20. And then we're asking for a right-of-way of 50 feet instead of 60 feet, because we just don't want this to be a main artery, people cutting through. And one of the objections that we heard was that we're dumping traffic onto Short Street, which we want to minimize that. That'll be a stop sign there, but we don't want it to be a place that people, I don't imagine anybody wanting to cut through from Garwood to Short, but there's gonna be a nice, pretty street. As you see the curve right there on that main Century Oak in the middle, and I'm sorry, Nancy, I can't, it's right there in that hump in the street.
Oh,
Yeah,
I've seen it. I've been
Okay,
by it.
that's part of
personally.
the 4 Century Oaks that are preserved by
Yeah.
deed. And so we wanted to kind of focus on that as part of the central. I mean, it's going to be really pretty. Maybe put a little mini park in there. Pocket park is what we're calling it. But all of that is designed to blend in with the rest of the neighborhood and to minimize the impact that it might have on traffic and parking. The other part that's in here is installing sidewalks on the interior. We do want to make sure we've got sidewalks on the interior street. The ordinance requires sidewalks on the exterior. That doesn't blend in with the rest of the neighborhood. There aren't sidewalks throughout there. So we're gonna, if we create sidewalks on that exterior portion from Colorado coming around to Short, where are those people going to go after that? They're going to step off into the street and there's not another sidewalk for them to transition to. So that's one of the variants that we're asking for. We just want to make sure that we fit into the rest of the neighborhood and in terms of the way it looks and also making it flow well. But we do want the interior. There are 8, actually 9 interior lots. So, you know, sidewalks inside would be nice for those people to walk back and forth and have a place to go. So there are sidewalks on the interior. The other 3 variances are really kind of technical. They deal with the gutter system. There's a street radius portion in here that's very difficult to interpret, but we've done our best. And then the actual street location down here, technically the ordinance says that we would have to align with Craddock Court. It's just not possible to do that. You can't have an interior street and make the rest of the, you remember the unusual circumstance kind of thing that everything that's been tried to be developed here, we've had to fall back on that. This is the optimal way is to put the street where we've got it. If you line it up with Craddock Court, you're just going to have skinny lots stacked on each other. This allows for the most spacious lots that we can get.
I'm looking for, excuse me, I was looking for Craddock Court on here because
Like right around here.
Yeah, go up to that.
I don't
once you
see
right
where it
across there,
says
that's
it.
Craddock.
Say that again.
I don't see where it says it.
There's existing storm drain.
Yeah, this is,
Culvert, street name, stop sign.
because I know
Yeah,
it would be north.
see that
Right.
W6 right there? That's
That-
kind of,
W6,
that's kind of,
That's it, okay.
yeah, because
Okay.
it comes straight out to where the old
Because
old,
it-
hospital enters, the drop-off lot where those trees are.
It's hard to understand on this.
There's a larger, you
Yeah.
want to see that?
I glanced at it coming in, but this is even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that had me a little bit confused about where that was going to be coming out.
Well, the third party review, you know, their job was to go in and nitpick the ordinances. And this is a difficult configuration to make
Yes.
everything work. So we've done the best we can, which is what Chase has done. So when we get into those aspects of it, I just kind of want to give you a description of how we got to where we are and more top line questions that you might have. But Chase is the one that did all the work on the actual variances and stuff. So as we go through each one of those, and I don't know how you want to go through, are we going to address and just read what we wrote or? Okay, then I'm going to let Chase do that. If you don't mind, I'm available. You have Monica for me?
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
So you started your presentation by saying something about you're just crossing your Ts and dotting your Is from things that that Robert and city staff had already approved a year ago? Did I hear that right?
When we actually came to P and Z with the plat proposal or the replat and then went to council and all of that was approved, then the way the process is designed, and this came about after the initial Chips Haven process, the city hired a third-party engineering firm out of Houston. I think it's called BB&D. BB, a whole bunch of letters, which means a bunch of partners. And then they've got their attorneys assigned to whenever a project like this comes in. And after the city's approved it, it goes to them for a third-party review. And that's where I'm saying dotting the I's and crossing the T's, because they're specifically looking at the ordinance and say, well, it might mean this. And we had those discussions because a lot of this stuff is some gray area. It's subject to interpretation. And when you get into ambiguity like that, we just have to do the best we can to meet our commitment to the city for this subdivision and what it was supposed to look like. So, lawyers can argue all day long. But when it comes down to it, what we've done, the variances that we submitted was based on discussions with them. And we wanted to make sure we met what they said we had to do. So, that better?
Good evening. Well, Mitch pretty much summed it up. I think I can go to the house. As Mitch stated, some of these are gray area items. They're items for us to discuss as a community that aren't blatantly stated verbatim in the ordinances. Other parts are up for interpretation based on engineering. And so the process of which we went to the city and got the preliminary plat approved, which was the basics of the layout that met all the criteria based in the ordinances. We then started not really negotiations even, but discussions and engineering after that was approved. So we went the preliminary plat approval by the city council. We then moved into the engineering process and phase of this. After that initial engineering phase was done by our civil engineer, that then went back and was submitted to the city for third-party review. This includes ordinance review as well as technical engineering review for drainage, sewer, all of those matters. Street types, what we're wanting to do, they essentially review it for if it's correct with the ordinances as well with general engineering practices that meet the city's requirements. So during those communications, we came up with these ordinances. They gave us a list. As you see, it's this, I don't know where y'all presented with the spreadsheet for now. This in the packet. Okay, well, effectively we were presented with this spreadsheet. The spreadsheet provided us a list of questions that the engineering team at BBG, I believe, stated. So then we had to come back and comply with them. And through multiple iterations of the plan, other situations of things that they wanted, like for instance, they wanted to see more specific topographic information. So we reduced some of because there's so low slope on this property, we had to increase the topo lines so they could see and understand better. Discuss the gutter detail. We discussed even points of the property itself on its survey. We had to increase that and provide different data for storm inlets and things of that nature. And so this was the list of questions that was presented to us, and then we had to comply with that. In yellow, we had a list of variances that needed to be approved before we can go back and have official approval of the plat for essentially construction. And so these were stated to us through the engineering team that they're not really specifically engineering concerns, but they're more not directly stated in the ordinance. So they're up for interpretation. And so that's where these 6 came from. And that's what we're asking about tonight. Guidance on y'all's behalf. So that when we go to the city council, we hopefully have your approval on them. So I guess we can get into those questions. If you have questions for me pertaining to the right of way versus the ordinance, the continuity, gutter, sidewalks, speed limit, and street radius. So I'll do my best. Okay.
But it's more for the city.
Okay.
Normally, when we get to this point, we get a review slip from the city that tells us if the city has reviewed this and they are.
Checklist?
Yeah, the
That
check.
was the preliminary. That's already.
That's
passed.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just didn't know if we would get another one at this
Yes,
point
this
also.
I printed today myself, just so in case it got brought up, somebody would have something to reference to it, because this is not the checklist that.
I didn't, it doesn't look like our checklist.
No, that's something.
But I was just curious.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're all going through a learning curve. Yeah, a learning thing, whatever. And so I'm gonna ask some questions that
It's okay.
most people would think are stupid, but most of the subdivision or most of the developments we've been doing have been working on pretty much raw land.
Mhm.
And this is an exception because it's within a neighborhood.
Correct.
And so,
And it was had previous buildings on it as well.
yes.
So there was
yes,
previous
yes.
infrastructure,
Which now you
that-
can't tell where they were because,
correct,
Because-
but they were still there.
yeah, but they weren't, if you wanted to go out in the last 6 months and look for them.
I can show
Where
you
they were
exactly.
located. So, please bear with
Sure.
all of us and me in particular.
I'm
Because
nothing but patient right now. We're a long ways into this deal. So
I
all we
think
got is
everybody up here, probably,
Right.
maybe not Garrett, but has been known to test people's patience. I speak
just
for the
understand that
females only. Okay,
we-
Chairman, that clarified just what I needed to know.
we have gotten
this
through the preliminary plat as part of the quote.
Yeah, I knew that,
ordinances,
yeah.
Okay, so this is a variance so that when we present the final plat, we've been able to incorporate everything. We decided as a group not to present these variances along with the official plat or what we wanted. We wanted to get these done. So when we present the document, it's a whole piece. We're not trying to get these done, then to present that to you. Okay, so when these are approved, the plan will then be presented officially, and I guess I'll be back up here again. I think it may avoid this step on the next submittal, but I may be wrong on that.
Yeah.
So
The
that's
final
where
comes
we're
there.
at. These are we're doing this separately,
Yeah.
not together, because we didn't want one to be confusing to everyone, because it can get that way if we were presenting these variances to be approved plus the actual final plat for construction. It gets to be a little tricky.
Go ahead,
I
Mom.
want to take these one at a time and then,
Yes.
okay,
Because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
And there's
different issues at hand.
Mhm.
questions.
So question for Tracy. Given all of the issues that the city has had with flooding in different parts of town, does city staff have an opinion about whether or not doing the gutters without the curbs is going to present a
So I'm
problem?
gonna be honest with you, whenever they work with the city, they work a lot with the city officials. I'm not a city official, so I don't have insight on that. So as far as any concerns like that, I would think they would have been addressed and that they've already had these discussions.
Is there anyone here from the city who was part of those conversations who
No.
could speak about their opinion?
Jack and Robert both out.
I guess my question would be to Chase.
Which one are we starting on? Let me ask. that
The,
question.
well, the first one
Gutters?
is the
The first one.
Okay, I wasn't certain of. the-
use of
okay,
concrete gutter to divert water.
Understood.
So can you explain that to us? And that way we get a better
Yes.
picture of what you're talking about.
So the intent.
Where is this? What street?
So this particular piece would be on the interior section, on the interior road of Towers Lane. It would be on the north and south sides of that road. The reason for this is this parcel is very low and slope. When we look at across the entire north to south, we're around a foot and a half. It's very minimal. Okay, so we have a very minimal sheet flow. It's when it rains, it's going to flow very slowly. So we wanted to capture that. In a typical curb and gutter scenario, the gutter itself is around 6 inches. Well, we either would have to dig the road out, which would not allow us to intersect utilities or roads that are pre-existing, or we would have to bring in enormous amounts of material to slope the land. And then that would give a strange topography look from surrounding areas. And so by utilizing this curb and gutter, after looking at the rain calculations and runoff from where it would come to, we were able to capture the runoff needs with this curb and gutter. So the curb and gutter would be effectively there, and you would drive through it in lieu of seeing a curb, a normal curb that's 6 inches and that you would cut down to be at a road surface. This gutter would start at the road edge and go down the slight, it's only this wide, mind you, and it's about that deep. And you would just traverse through it to get to your property. So your property edge would abut where the sidewalk would abut that curb, and you would obviously not drive through the sidewalk, but effectively you're driving through the sidewalk when you go into your property. So the calculations in terms of moving the amount of water that's anticipated based on general engineering requirements has been accounted for with this particular design.
The
The exterior of the development does have the curbs?
No, actually
Excuse me.
not. The northern portion of this has a similar gutter detail. It's slightly more extensive, but if you drive Colorado, it has a capturing gutter that's similar to this, because that's actually how they, on the northeast corner of the lot, you actually drove through it. As it goes further to the west, it's actually it's gaining or depth because it's actually hitting a storm inlet there.
So the part that you have on Colorado with the culverts or the drainage system that they have, is that what you're looking to do on towers? Or
It's far less graduated. I mean, if you look at the dimensions, I have to look here. It's approximately 2 foot wide. So let's say the width of this table and the change in depth, it's 1 inch. So the thickness of this table and the width of this table is what we're seeing. So if you saw where the road stopped and the sidewalk began, you're literally dropping the depth of this table piece here. That's how minimal that is. So the idea is that at the tree, the grades kind of crown and push water to Short Street and back to Garwood.
Mhm.
And then we'll utilize these curbs or the gutters to manage the runoff, because the road has to have a specific amount of crown in it based on general road construction and engineering requirements.
So on Craddock Court, they have something similar to that. It's like, it was a street and it's like an inch
It's
of,
called a ribbon curb. It's very
That was-
minimal. Yes, ma'am.
yeah, there was hardly, so is that similar to what you're talking about?
I mean, to some degree, but this is far more, it's far
wider.
larger.
It's wider, right?
Yes.
Right, okay. But it's the same,
It's a similar
sort of
concept.
idea.
We're moving water across an impervious cover item to direct its flow.
okay, thank you.
Since there's,
Go ahead, go ahead.
since there's no one from city staff here to talk about whether or not they think that this would be sufficient, do you have any communication from your engineers you can present, or the BBG engineers
Well, so
saying they
that's
think
the
this would be
thing, is
sufficient?
it's presented to BBG from our engineers, and then they say whether or not it doesn't meet what's considered a curb in the ordinance. However, this type of curb, which is utilized on the northern part of the property, is used in other places.
Yeah, I'm less concerned with whether it meets, whether the engineers think it meets the ordinance than I am with whether the engineers think it would be sufficient to handle water runoff.
We wouldn't have placed it on this plan if it wasn't sufficient to handle the water runoff. It's been calculated and determined. I mean, this is what is the recommendation of the engineer that will sign and seal this set of documents.
Okay,
So he is not here tonight to defend that. But
right.
that's, I mean, it's our obligation as engineers. I am one myself we would not blatantly put something on the plan that would go against the practice of it. We're
And-
bound to by that. So
Thank you. My intent was not to
No, I didn't-
impugn your honor.
I didn't take it as that.
Okay.
I'm stating that, when there's one piece on that document that says it's not signed and sealed. Okay. Well, we denote the relevance of a plan or that it's complete by the signature of an engineer that's then liable for that. If that were not to work, he would then be liable obligation to the cost of that repair up to a certain limitation. Okay. So when we submit these plans, we're not submitting thought as if it were just I think that'll work kind of scenario, right? It's calculated and determined. This type of curb and use of that to divert water is utilized in other locations. It may not be as prevalent in Smithville as it is in other places, but it still is a utilizable avenue to divert water. So it will be a robust thing. You can see from a dimensionally, it's concrete. It will have reinforcing. It will be tied into a sidewalk or abutted a sidewalk and abut the road, which is asphalt. So
And this is just on Towers?
that's correct. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Just that one street?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Anybody else have any questions? No. After we do this presentation, yep, and then
Yeah.
ask, yes, that's what I was gonna do. Yes. Okay, the second one is regarding the tighter street radius on Towers Lane to make for the Century Oak.
Oh,
In-
The next.
Yeah, the
variance
next one, yeah,
request?
regarding section 5 points Chapter 10, Article 3, Section 1.7, not Act 3, y'all, it's Article 3, so. Okay,
Uh,
because I think the tree is a special circumstance regarding the street. Gary, do you have any questions? No, no, okay. Nancy, anything on that one? Do you have any questions?
Not really. It's, not really. I just know that Garwood is not nearly as wide as Short is, or Colorado, and it's,
Okay.
you're going to have a small group of people that are going to be entering Garwood from Tower.
Okay,
And that street's not real wide, and you've got a number of people that live on Craddock Court and also on Garwood across from this property.
okay.
So is anything going to be done with Garwood?
For what? I'm
To
not
make-
following the
well,
question.
If you look at the street, just in the 2 blocks.
Is this
it's
regarding the
different-
street
it's
radius
di-
or?
It's different widths wide.
Well, it may look
So-
that way because of just earthened grown in, but in terms of the city's right of way, it's based on the ordinances that were around when they built the road.
Well, yeah, but what I'm wondering more about is traffic as it's coming out. If there's, I mean, maybe this is more of a city problem than a, but,
I can't speak to that. I
okay,
mean, we're meeting what we believe to be the requirements of the ordinances to have a trafficable street. I don't,
A navigable street.
but as I stated earlier, this is a little bit different because it's in already a developed area. So to me,
Understood.
I feel that I have to look at the streets and
Right.
everything that surrounds it to see
understand though
where the
that
folks that are living here will be living here, you know,
they were, I mean, that
to
entrance
deal with
right
the
there and
folks that are
exit
here
is
and
where
there.
the original entrance and exit were for Towers. The main entrance and exit outside of the northeastern parking lot was
Mm.
where that exit is right now, slightly shifted, maybe 20 feet. The existing exit onto Short Street is the existing alleyway that drove in for all the service vehicles, food.
Oh, yeah, I
and all
know that.
Yeah.
I know
So
it's
in
not,
terms of the
short
amount of
term,
traffic, I would imagine that having 9 home sites with potentially 18 vehicles is far less than 50 employees and 100 residents.
Mhm.
well, I'm just asking
No, I-
questions that, because
understood.
as I said, I look at the entire area. And that's one of my concerns is, are people going to be exiting into somebody's front yard? Or where they're going to be exiting from their,
No, I'm sorry.
you know, I don't know. 'cause
I don't
it-
know, is that question pertaining to this variance? And I hate to sound
Yeah.
that way. I've
Well,
got
that's
I
okay.
can't
That's
speak
okay.
to
I just,
the possibilities of however many things that could happen for
I'm
some
just concerned
circumstance.
about where exactly this is going to come out.
I know, but are we talking about the continuity or are we talking about street radius? I'm confused because it seems as though we're
Well,
talking about
it's-
continuity.
I think it's kind of both, but my question would be, he says a tighter street radius, how much tighter is, I mean, do you know how tight the radius is?
So this is
versus what it's
this
supposed
is a
to be?
piece in the ordinance it gives a radius, but the radius it provides is not an achievable radius for even the radius that it provides is not a radius that we even use to get on 71 from 95 or from Loop 230 to 95 for that matter.
Mhm.
So the radiuses they're asking us to achieve would take up the entirety of the property.
Mhm.
So we're asking that our radius be based on the engineering discussions. We're asking tonight that based on what we're provided in the plan and what's shown, that it's adequate to turn either around the tree or on and off property based on what's existing throughout the community. Like
It's because for a local street, it's 500
500
feet,
feet,
right? Or
which is
small,
enormous. I
right.
mean, that's like a clover leaf in a major cities,
Mhm.
bridge intercept.
Mhm.
It's enormous. And maybe there's a misunderstanding on our end, but the engineers agreed that what we showed was adequate to access and egress the property. But because we don't show a 500-foot radius, center line to center line,
Mhm.
that we have to address it in the variance and ask for
Right.
that. So
That's
though,
one of the benefits on the exterior lots on Garwood, there are no driveways there.
Yeah,
Those are all side lots. We didn't put any driveways over there. We moved it all in the interior lots because we didn't want to create driveways there on Garwood that might interfere with.
Because there's three, I think, on there, right? On Garwood,
On Garwood, yeah, it's just Garwood.
Yes, ma'am.
yeah.
So, okay,
There's one, to be
that
three
could
lots.
exit onto that lot 5, is that what it is? That could cut the Colorado, this one could go Tower Lane, this one would go Tower
Tower
Lane,
Lane.
and this one would go.
That's existing. No, that's not.
The rear, the bottom right is
That-
existing.
That's already here.
Yeah, that's already, that's
a new
existing,
lot, and
yeah.
there's The three on Garwood, okay. So you're saying that the one up top there would be going on onto Colorado, not onto Garwood for a driveway or
Yes,
such?
ma'am.
Okay,
Based on our interpretation of the layout and desires as a developer, that
okay.
road, that would egress onto
Okay,
Okay.
now,
Colorado.
another little irritating question for me is what if this person up in that corner wants to come out on Garwood rather than on Colorado?
I'm not
That-
certain, I'm kind of confused what we're talking about because I don't have any variances regarding
I must be-
exiting
I
and
must be
off of
too-
lots.
I must be too,
So we're talking about the curve around the tree, correct?
yep,
I don't know, honestly.
That's what you requested in the variance, so correct?
The variance is pertaining to the center line radius of turning on or off or around things. It doesn't necessarily specify, it talks about intersections, but the intersection could be at the curvature of an intersection of a curvature. Or it could be the literal intersection. It's not stated. We weren't provided the clarity in which to look at this better.
But what
So-
brought you here tonight was the curve around the tree.
Was it around the tree or was it around the intersection?
Well, it's around the tree specifically.
So
That's
specifically around the tree.
coincides to the reduction in speed limit.
See, it's around the tree, okay, all right, so that.
So-
what we're
So the
discussing
variance
now
we're
is-
talking about right
is
now
about
is
just around the
the
tree.
curvature around the tree.
Correct.
Okay, all right, anything else?
yeah.
Monica, anything else?
Just trying to clarify.
No, understood. I'm not trying to,
No,
if
no,
I come
Okay.
across rude, it's sometimes just my voice. And I'm just,
no.
I'm kind of
Yeah,
just trying to clarify
you're
exactly
good.
what I'm trying to answer
You're
because
good.
I don't
Well, there's a lot of them in here and we're all.
understood.
Okay, the next one is reducing the speed limit on Towers Lane to 20 miles an hour. In lieu of the local street of 30 miles an hour.
Which one,
With
which are on the
safety.
speed limit?
Yeah, it's.
Okay.
We'd already discussed that pretty much. Anybody have any
Yeah,
no
there's-
questions?
The
Okay.
reason I
problem
say
with
that,
that.
Nancy,
Mhm.
honestly, is due to the fact that we've gotten through the preliminary plat and that was approved. And so some of these things, I'm not trying to sound crass, it's just I'm here specifically to speak about
Right,
these
these
three
other
things,
things.
not to rehash the actual layout of the property, and more so just these specific 6 items.
Okay.
So I just don't want to dive too deep into
Yeah.
the weeds on
Right.
other
Other
aspects
issues, okay.
that have been
But,
approved.
but that's part of our job.
No, understood, but that part has already
So
been approved.
that's why you're going to get some questions that,
Understood.
okay,
I'm fine with it. I'm just saying, like, my understanding is that I'm here for these 6 items.
Right,
We've already attested to
Yes.
the actual layout, the egress off of lots, the potential for so many different things to happen that I just didn't want to get back into the weeds of those things and, muddy the waters of what we're asking for tonight, as
okay,
opposed to things that may have happened months ago.
okay. The next one is, anything else, Nancy? Not
the
Monica?
speed limit? No,
Yeah,
no,
okay,
no, I-
okay.
I'm in favor of
Okay,
that 20.
locate Towers Lane as shown in the Garwood, okay, not connecting to Craddock Court, basically utilizes the existing entry more effectively. Any questions on that? Garrett? No. Monica, Nancy? No.
Give me a second.
About saying street should be a continuation of existing street into adjacent subdivisions, but due to the
Yeah.
layout, it's offset.
Yeah.
Any questions?
And that's what section 1A. Yep.
Yes, yes. Okay, any questions? Okay. The next one is reduce the street right of way from 60 feet to 50 feet. So what street are we talking about?
This would be Towers Lane, the one which we would be constructing.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on this? Go ahead, Monica, I'm sorry.
Why?
Honestly, it
So you can put
provides,
bigger houses on the lots or
just
bigger
provides a
yards?
little bit more frontage yard to reduce street parking. and beautification of the site. I
So
mean,
how does having narrower streets reduce
it
street
doesn't reduce the
parking?
street width. It reduces the right of way on either side of the street by 2.5 feet.
Okay,
So the actual road itself will still maintain the 26 foot as per code and ordinance.
okay.
It's just, instead of having, I guess I can't do the quick math. What are we talking here? It's 60. So we would have 26 and what's that, 24. So it would be 12 less 2.5. So what's that? 10.5 feet, 11.5 feet. Instead of, I mean, we're reducing the width of the right of way by that much on either side of the road.
Okay, so you're not reducing, I just want to make sure I understand, you're not actually reducing the size of the road itself?
No, ma'am.
Just the city's
5
right
feet.
away for that road?
Correct. That's correct.
So into lawns?
Effectively. Yes,
Okay,
So the city will own less grass between the sidewalk and the property
effectively.
line.
That's correct. So minimizing maintenance to that too, if there is any.
But it's homeowners.
The roadside still maintains the same width and requirement.
Tracy?
The homeowners are still maintaining the extra,
right-of-way.
Well,
extra
yes,
right
but
of
I'm
way.
sure that they,
Yeah.
they're honestly, after sidewalks placed, I mean, let's face it, most of the people here in town already, with or without sidewalks, mow to the street. Because whether the street looks like it's 50 foot wide or 15 foot wide in some places, it's because of the encroachment of soil over time. And
Yeah.
so most people in town maintain their lawns out to the road. In this case, we would have the road, the gutter, a sidewalk of some kind with a minimum of 4 feet, and then grass.
Okay.
So
Okay, and how wide is the street?
their street's 26 feet.
26 feet,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Tracy, I know
Man, my
you weren't
math
part of
went
these
way off there,
conversations, so I have this is a general question about city right away and what is done there. So do you know how this would impact what the city would or would not do in the right of way in the future?
I mean, it's all property.
Why? I mean, my question is, why does the city want that property?
Commonly your water lines, your
Okay.
sewer lines, your storm, depending on those types of aspects are commonly put in there. And in another, for instance, could be, let's say a telecom company came in and wanted to run fiber. They
Right.
would run fiber inside the right of way. And so the city owns the rights to allow them to do that. In
So
this,
somebody plants something, we need to go in, and we take a Miss Mary's 80-year-old rose bush.
She's gonna be pissed.
Yes.
Okay.
but it's inside the city's right of way,
Right.
inside their right to change it. In this particular case, we're also installing all of the items
Utilities.
prior to, right? And so things that are going into the interior lots will be installed at a time in which these options to be impacted would be minimized.
Okay, and so the city would still have 12 feet right away on either side of the street. 50
Yes.
minus 26 is 24
Yes.
divided by 2.
That's right.
Okay, and all the utilities are gonna be underground?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And so just to that point, like the electrical system has not yet fully been laid out because we don't want to do it until we get it fully
Approved.
approved.
Right.
But that will be we'll be working with the city to lay out transformer locations and things of that nature. Additionally, the transformers will be on the front sections of the property. We'll have water and sewer underground, of course. And I believe we have some telecom also that we'll have to consider. I don't know if we have that throughout town yet or not, but there'll be like, cable, things of that nature that get put in there as well.
Okay,
We'll go with the most modern stuff.
okay, okay. Any other questions?
It's probably be more of a question for the city, but I would assume by reducing it, still with that right away, it's ample enough room for the transformers and electrical infrastructure and all that.
I would assume so. I would imagine that if there had to be some accommodation for a transformer to be set at a corner of a property, that I would think that there could be a agreement there
Okay.
to accommodate. I think right now we're probably looking at maximum 4 on the interior, maybe a couple more, maybe 4 or 5 max. Because the other lots will be on the exteriors. There'll be no overhead power to any of these homes.
Anything else you got? Underground, yeah, as of like 14 or something. Okay. And then the last one placing sidewalks along the new interior roadway, but not along the exterior of the roadway.
Yes, the towers would receive sidewalks, but to maintain continuity with some of the adjacent properties to not place sidewalks along exteriors.
How much money does that save you? By not having to put sidewalks around the exterior
I don't have the exact figure,
ballpark?
$1 million. I'm sorry. That was a
Yeah.
joke. I
Those
thought
are
it'd
nice
get a better laugh
sidewalks.
than that. I mean,
Those are really pretty sidewalks.
$2 million, I guess. No, it,
Okay.
I-
Are you aware
honestly-
of all the efforts the city is going through now to place more sidewalks around town to make things safer for
Right.
people walking around?
not directly. I have not seen that paperwork.
Okay,
I've seen
but-
that they've made some accommodations along the loop. In a couple other areas that have accommodated not only just pathways, but also water drainage. So I'm not certain as to if those are more specifically designed to help divert water or if they're actually to help pedestrian traffic.
I think it's support more for safe routes to school and some wheelchair access
Yeah.
type stuff.
Okay.
But
You can walk.
Uh,
I
yeah.
like the pavement.
Right. Well, that's just saying this is, the thing is, it's consistently inconsistent with curbs and gutters and sidewalks throughout
Right.
the city. You know, I mean, one block has it halfway and the other block has nothing.
Right.
So it's in the same block, much less a whole new subdivision.
So what are pre-existing currently would be all of Ninth Street has sidewalks.
Ninth
Mhm.
Street and part of
Um,
Short Street.
Part
along
of
the
Short Street along the
the
doctor's
dentist
office. There's a small section in front of the existing property.
Right.
You know,
Colorado, there's none.
there's
There's
none.
nothing.
And there,
There's none.
right. So
Yeah. And Garwood, I don't
it's
think
just,
has
it-
any.
again, this was a discussion with the engineers. It has nothing to do with engineering specifically.
Right.
It's just in the ordinance. And so we decided like, we'll do all new sidewalks on the interiors, but due to the way things are already laid out to minimize exterior sidewalks.
Because I think with all this new traffic, new houses in here, there's going to be more traffic. And there's already, when you're going down Colorado, you're already dodging pedestrians and dogs and chickens and other stuff. So, you know, I think it would be nice to have sidewalks around. Plus, it's a
Drive
new,
to
it's a
Covart
new
night.
subdivision. Pardon me?
To drive to Covart at night when I have to worry about animals.
I have no other questions.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I have no other.
Oh, no. Okay. Garrett, did you have anything else? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for answering
Okay.
this. Do you
Yes,
want to
ma'am.
see if any? Yeah. And I think we should take each one of these individual, yes or no. So,
Good
Yeah.
evening. My
Hello.
name is Bonnie Bratton. I'm new to the area. My husband and I, Leslie Graffin Reed, moved in March, so we're very
Welcome.
happy
Welcome.
living in Smithville. We are at 507 Colorado, very into Short as it hits in that far corner up there where Colorado Drive curves around. I've reviewed all of the applications for the variances. It's my understanding, and have no objection to any of them. It's my understanding that the request for the curb and gutter variance has nothing to do with any request for a variance on the drainage. So the drainage will still comply is the way. So the engineering is such that they're not asking for a variance where the water's going to flow, just the method for getting it around. So we're pleased with the plans and just wanted to say so.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks.
You're
Anyone
welcome.
else? Yeah. Anyone else to
And
speak? on
thank you
that?
again. It's nice to hear someone who's not bitching.
Okay. All right. Well, because there are so many of these requests for the variance, I think we should take them individually. And
Okay.
so the first one regarding the concrete gutter. I'll call for a motion on that one. Because this is only on Towers Lane.
Okay. I'll try to do this one. I was the chairman a number of years, so I just recently learned how to do the motion, so please bear with us.
Yeah, do you want? to?
Oh, you
Yes.
got, oh, yes.
I'll leave it back.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh. Yeah, 'cause I've
And
got mine here,
None of
too.
us are contagious, nor is Garrett, who prefers to sit as far away from us as he can.
It's human nature. Always go to the same spot.
I move for the approval of a variance to use concrete gutters to divert water as described in the Garwood Park Variance Exhibit gutter detail in lieu of curb and gutter system stated in Chapter 10, Article 3, Section 5 of the ordinances, with the following findings. The variance will not be contrary to the public interest, and there are special conditions affecting the applicant's property. And because of the special conditions, literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. And the variance observes the spirit of the ordinance, and substantial justice is done by granting the variance.
Do I have a
I'll
second?
second it.
Okay. Call for a vote. Approved,
Approved, yes.
unanimous.
the next one too.
Yeah. Okay, for the second one. Regarding the. I'll
No,
call
I
for, a
hear
mo-
you.
a call for a motion.
Okay, I move, do we have to read all of it? I move for
Yes.
approval of a variance to use tighter lane, see Garwood Park Variance Exhibit, viable around the large century oak tree and minimally impact the existing building to be utilized on site. This would be in lieu of stated ordinances described in Chapter 10, Article 3, Section 1.7, with the following findings. The variance will not be contrary to the public interest, and there are special conditions affecting the applicant's property. And because of the special conditions, literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. And the variance observes the spirit of the ordinance, and substantial justice is done by granting the ordinance.
Is there a second? No. Thank you, Garrett. Vote, please. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. And third one regarding the speed limit, call for a
The
motion.
speed limit?
I can do it.
Yeah. This is kind of a new procedure that we have to do. It's a new procedure too, as Tom will attest to, who's hiding in the back row, that the city council also has to do. So when they make a, right, they go through all that. So we're, yeah.
Yep. No, yes.
And our vice chairman usually doesn't have to do a lot of this, and there's a lot of this tonight. And she's doing this super. Okay, he's gonna do.
I move for the approval of variance to reduce the speed limit on Towers Lane to 20 miles per hour. As shown in the Garwood Park Variance Exhibit. This would be in lieu of the standard local street speeds of 30 miles per hour. Reducing with the following findings, variance will not be contrary to public interest, and there are special conditions affecting the applicant's property. And because of special conditions, little enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. And the variance observes the spirit of the ordinance, and substantial justice is done by granting the variance.
I'll second.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next one. Regarding the street. Call for motion. Not connecting it to credit court. This is a call for motion.
He's got the sheet here.
I move for approval of variance to locate Towers Lane as shown in Garwood Park Variance Exhibit, not connecting to the new local street with the existing street, credit court per Chapter 10, Act 3, Section 1.8, utilizing existing side entry location and utilizing land more effectively. With the following findings, the variance will not be contrary to public interest, and there are special conditions affecting the applicant's property. And because of the special conditions, little enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. And the variance observes the spirit of the ordinance, and substantial justice is done by granting the variance.
Call for a vote.
Second.
Oh, those in, a second, call for a second, I'm
I'll-
sorry.
Second.
Second. Okay, call for a vote. Those are in
All in favor?
favor?
Aye.
Unanimous on that one. Garrett, want to do this one again?
I can do the first part, but I don't have the long part.
Okay,
with me.
here, I have this one right here.
Okay, I recommend the request for variance to reduce this street right away from 60 feet to 50 feet for ordinance chapter 10, act 3, section 1.5.
With the following
With the
findings.
following findings. The variance will not be contrary to the public interest in their special conditions affecting the applicant's property. And because of the special conditions, literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. And the variance observes the spirit of the ordinance, and substantial justice is done by granting the variance.
Here's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? So I'm kind of, okay, two in agreement and 2 opposed, because I'm going to oppose that one too. It's a tie. So this would be, because I had questions about this one. I guess I wasn't understanding the whole thing, so I had questions about this one.
I understand.
Yeah. So Tracy, you got that one is 2 for and 2 against? 2 opposed? I'm sorry. Yeah, so two or Garrett and Nancy and Monica and I oppose.
Does the chair?
I
Vote unless there's a tiebreaker situation. It's the first time I've been up. I mean, I'm new, but it's the first time I've been up here. We have an even number of people.
Okay, so if I don't vote, then it's 2 to 1. It'd be 2
Yeah.
to 1 then. But I do get to vote because
Yeah. Me too. All right, so can we move on to the last one? 'Cause I'd like to be the last.
okay.
The sidewalks.
I move for a denial of the requested variance with the following findings, and that the variance references is
For the side, there's some
not to
sidewalks.
place the part about not placing sidewalks along the existing exterior roadways. The variance will be contrary to the public interest. There are not special conditions affecting the applicant's property. Even with special conditions, literal enforcement of the ordinance does not result in unnecessary hardship. The variance does not observe the spirit of the ordinance, and substantial justice will not be done by granting the variance.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
In
In favor of the denial?
Double negative.
Yeah. Okay, so 2,
It's 2-2.
you're,
You're in, I'm in favor. of
I'm in favor of, yes,
denial.
I'm in favor of the denial for that one.
Mhm.
Okay, so do you got that one, Tracy? Okay. Okay, so these are, we'll make these recommendations to city council and they will have the final say. So we just make recommendations to the city council. Okay, that was a long one. Okay, next. Thank you, Chase, very much for all your information. This was a long one. Okay. The next, pardon?
Now we.
No, we have one, yeah, we have 2 more items on the
Yeah.
agenda. The next item is for discussion and action on a variance request for a minimum side yard setback for 408 Ramona, parcel ID 8725404, Smithville Town Site, Block 13, Lot 3A, acres 0.258, amended plat of lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 of Block 13, property owner Brenda Green Mitchell, agent Mitchell Jameson. Is there any, you want to make a presentation?
You have changed, Brenda.
Mitchell Jameson, 702 Holly. This is an explanation versus the one that just, I think this one is. What we got for lot 3A. Specifics of it.
Mhm.
Abutting corner lots created, which forced us into the alternate standard of a 25-foot side yard setback. The lots 5 through 8, which is where the Bledsoes are with, that was rezoned to CBD. So there's CBD on that side of what used to be the alley, but the alley was vacated by the city in 2017. So that's why these two corner lots abut, but on one side it's CBD, and on our side it's SF1. So what we're asking for to build a house that's appropriate for that lot, it's a big lot and 90 feet wide.
Mhm.
But when you lose 25 feet on the side and you've got 10 feet on the other side, now we've got 35 feet taken off of the lot width. So the buildable width is not really fitting with what the rest of the neighborhood has. So we're just asking for the variance because this was I believe, an unintended consequence when the city vacated the alley that created the two abutting corner lots. So I'm just asking for the variance to go to the standard setback of 15 feet instead of the 25 feet that's created by this unintended consequence.
Questions? Garrett, you have anything?
I just want one little clarification, and I'm not trying to cause trouble or anything.
You never cause trouble.
But I mean, when the Bledsoes bought 401 and these lots, those were also included in here, even though prior to 20, when this was vacated, when the alley was vacated, it never even existed. So is that part of their property, this strip considered?
That's their
community-
property.
Yeah, is it considered central business district, or is it considered?
I'm not qualified to answer that.
I would imagine it's CBD, right?
Or, yeah,
Is it-
or
could-
is it
because that's
SF1?
To me, it's CBD because that's what they bought. The lot was
That's their
vacated and that's the deed that was filed. So that's their
Okay.
land.
So, but that would be his property, so that we're dealing just with this, which is SF1.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You're SF1,
Yes, ma'am.
100%.
Always
So
have been.
The
Yep.
whole alley thing is.
Yeah.
is-
We came to y'all last year and
new.
replatted from, it used to be 4 lots and
Right. They went down to
we
three.
replatted to 3.
And one and
Yeah.
a third
Yeah.
lots.
Yeah,
One and a
I remember
third
that.
And then
lots
that was
each.
all offset when I found this little thing in the ordinance. So I didn't want I wanted to come to you and present it now. So
Right.
Do you have a plan for a house that's going to go on there? Because it kind of referred to something. Okay,
And
So
what we
it's
have to
pretty
do
wide.
just to meet the 15-foot setback is we have to cut that off, move it upstairs. I'm sorry for all of that. No, I don't have, I had actually put it in the packet, but
Yeah.
it didn't show up.
no, we didn't get that.
Yeah.
So I brought this just in case.
So this is going to be fronting on Ramona, not on Fifth. Okay,
We wanted to fit in,
with the neighborhood right there.
you know, what's across the street.
The-
It just-
Oh, yeah.
The Greek, the Gothic,
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah,
the
so we
Greek,
went with
Greek
the
revival, Greek revival.
Tall house.
Okay, okay. Anyone from wanting to speak on this?
I do have a wallet kit. Sorry, Lee Kilgore.
Mhm.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
I'm Lee Kilgore. I live at 403 Ramona, catty corner to where they are.
Mhm.
And I approve of their setback variance of 15 feet.
Okay,
Thank
thank you, thank you. Any more discussion on this? Call for a vote? I'm sorry, call for a motion, I'm sorry.
I move the approval of a variance to apply standard lot dimensions versus alternate minimum side yard setback
corner lot, first 65 feet from property line, restored. With the following findings, the variance will not
Be contrary to the public interest, and there are special conditions affecting the applicant's property, and because the special conditions literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship, and the variance observes the spirit of the ordinance, and substantial justice is done by granting the variance.
Second. Call for a vote.
All in favor?
You second it? Yeah. I'll
Yeah,
decline
he's
for
seconded.
vote.
it. Yeah, calling for a vote. All those approved?
Aye. Approved.
Okay, unanimous approval. Okay, next. The last thing on the agenda is discussion and action on a zone change from SF1, Single Family Dwelling District to C3 Highway Commercial District for parcel ID 113099 A27 DeCrow Thomas acres 7.044, property owner Smithville Investment LLC, agent Sadiq Marietta. Anyone here to speak on this one?
I mean, we did have someone, but are you here? Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes.
okay. Yes, yeah.
I mean, do you want?
Is there anything you want to say about this? I think it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. So everybody knows that this is the area across from Spire Drill. That's going to be the gas station and fast food restaurant. Anyone, any discussion?
I do have someone for the public. to
Okay,
sign up. I
okay.
meant-
Oh,
Okay,
Yeah, well,
he wants,
because
Okay.
right now it's not in the city.
right.
And in order to come in the city, it comes.
It's been
SF1,
annexed, it's annexed already.
And then
and
it has
It
to,
has to be SF zone SF1
yes.
as a new
it has to be
annexation.
SF1.
Right, and that's why he's coming here for the zone change. Yes. Yes, sir.
I'm Walt Wallachek. I live at 126 FM 153, which is directly across 153 from this property.
Mhm.
And I am opposed to the zone change. I'd much rather see residential development out there as it's zoned for now versus a convenience store. And some of the reasons for that, according to Zillow, property values always decrease when this type of establishment is built, never increase. There's a visual impact, there's a lighting impact with light shining on the residences, and additional noise with additional traffic. Now, if this is approved, I would like to see some conditions on approval, and around the lighting, there is ways to make that less obtrusive to residences by following International Dark Sky Association recommendations, as well as the Illuminating Engineering Society of North America recommendations. They use shielded lights, and I'm not an engineer, so I can't say a whole lot about it. But,
Right.
And additionally, on the visual impact and the noise, if trees could be planted along the 153 side of that property, that would help block the visual as well as hold some of the noise down.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Yeah. Just remember, sir, that we make recommendations to the city council, but the city council approves or denies these. But yes, thank you. Call for a motion. There was nobody else, right, Tracy?
Oh,
Okay,
this is just this is easier. Okay, I make a motion that we approve a zone change from SF1 Single Family Dwelling District to C3 Highway Commercial District for a parcel ID 113099 A27 DeCrow Thomas acres 7.044, property owner Smithville Investment LLC, agent
Sadiq.
Siddiqui
Mar-
and
Maradia.
Marita?
Meridia.
Okay. Thank you. for Clearing that up. He's the agent. I make a recommendation.
Based-
Oh, it's not a variance.
Oh, it's not a variance.
It's
That's
not a
right. Yeah, I'm
variance.
sorry. Thank
It-
you.
It's, it's a zone change.
Yes, it's a
so
zone
you don't
change.
have to
Is there a second?
Do that.
Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? No other business? Can I have a motion for adjournment? I'll second that.
I second.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much for coming.
Yes, thank you all for being here.
Yes.
I would say it's the force you just.